Hi everyone. Look, it's Sunday morning. I'm getting a lurgy, so please bear with me. We've prepared a quick breakdown of what we understand the pay deal put forward by the unions means, particularly for Workload. We needed some time on Saturday to contact people and try to get questions answered, and then a little bit of time to prepare a video response. Video reaches more people, which is why we've done it this way, but it does take more time to produce. Yesterday evening, several unions released further information to their members about the deal, so we were kind of beaten to it. Our short piece might be useful to some folk anyway, so it follows after this. But first of all, I want to share a personal message. When it all kicked off on Friday, I, like many, was concerned about the language used in the pay deal. A cursory read through the text would ring some alarm bells, even in someone who understands a fair bit about teachers' contracts and trade union law. But after a second, third and fourth read through, along with a check of corresponding agreements and our legal rights over industrial action, those alarm bells quietened down. There remained questions I wanted answers to from my own union, as only the people involved in the negotiations actually know what individual clauses are meant to mean in the real world. So my initial take, which I wholly stand by, was that we needed some time to figure out what it all meant before making judgments and voting. I also believe that the negotiating teams from all the teacher trade unions kind of deserved a chance to explain what the deal meant before people rushed to judgment. I made the now stupid decision to try and engage with people about this on Facebook.
Mother of God.
I tried to impose my ideas onto other people about holding fire on a voting decision until we all knew more. Helen and I discussed this yesterday, and in hindsight, this was the wrong thing for me to do, particularly using the Think1265 brand. In the madcap hullabaloo, which was Friday evening, I wandered out of our lane. Now I'm concerned that I gave the impression that our campaign unreservedly backs everything our teaching trade unions do, and this is not the case. If you were in the delivery room with us as we give birth to this campaign, you would have a very different view on that matter. There are 5 major teaching trade unions in Northern Ireland, and Think1265 are persona non gratis with regard to the leadership of 4 of them. But we still think that it's through these trade unions that teachers have the best chance to secure their rights under the contractual agreements. But if my own union was to make decisions which decreased our chances of achieving the Think1265 aim, then I would happily call these out. So this is my apology to you all if I annoyed or frustrated you on Friday night while under the Think1265 banner. While some in Northern Ireland might disagree, I believe that campaigns are won by what we do next rather than going on about what happened in the past. So to move forward, late or not, here's what we found out about the pay deal. Hi all. Yeah, it's that fella from Think1265 again. Look, yesterday evening, because it's always the last thing on Friday when your ears are ringing and your head is spinning, details of our pay offer were released by all the unions in Northern Ireland. Some of the wording in the agreement looked ambiguous and even scary. So we suggested that people hold fire with their vote while explanations of what the deal means were given. Given. See what I did there? It's no secret that Think1265 have contacts within the trade union movement.
Listen very carefully. I shall say this only once.
And both Helen and myself are active members of our union. We use these contacts today to get to the bottom of what the deal actually means from the perspective of the people who negotiated it. Now this is our overview of what we learned. Please note, we don't speak for or on behalf of any union in this forum. We'll just do our best to explain what the pay deal means for you. First of all, look, there's the financial side. It's a 5.5% uplift backdated to September, which isn't far off what teachers got in England and Wales. Now, it's not what we asked for.
I have made a legitimate and peaceful request.
But it never ever is, so our negotiators go high in the knowledge that we'll get somewhere in the middle. I'm old enough to remember teacher pay offers being usually between 0.5 and 1.5% for most of my career, so it's actually one of the biggest financial uplifts we've ever won. But Think1265 isn't about pay, so do with that what you will. None of our beeswax.
We are men of action.
Now comes the gnarly stuff. Section 2 is a rewording of the standard teachers' contract stuff from the Jordanstown Agreement. Many folk were alarmed by the second bullet point about our 1265 hours being exclusive of time spent off premises in preparing and marking lessons. But this is standard stuff from our contract. It's the zombie clause we speak of often. The pressures on teachers to do their planning and lesson marking in their own time have been effectively challenged by the latest workload agreement. All sides now refer to this practice as not satisfactory. It stands in the way of reasonable workloads. It affects your right to a work-life balance. It opposes your entitlement to workloads which can be finished in your working day. In short, it's literally no change to where we are now. There's nothing new here. There's no drama. If you ask the Department of Education the way to the nearest post box, they'll quote that line to you, just in case. Section 3 is another bit of boilerplate, describing the principal's responsibility over directed time budgets. Some might focus on the bit about teachers not being able to decide what to do with the directed time themselves, but that's also not new. It's been around for 40 years. Point 4 is about the workload reviews. These are the processes which are underway to find actual fixes to the system which deal with highlighted areas of workload issues. Now, some of them were from a few years ago and then they accelerated last April after the 2024 pay deal. But a couple are new. The workload agreement, TNC 2024/2, and directed time budgets have been added, and this must be to do with implementation of them in schools. Now, whatever reason this was added, those of you who wrote to Mr. Given about the workload agreement should take some credit for this. We didn't get a straightforward, I'll take responsibility for this type of answer, but it is now on the table. It's part of the workflow, and our representatives can push for the implementation of these agreements and systems to be fixed in our schools. Another new one was the addition of controlled assessments to the workload negotiations. Now, this is an attempt to resolve the issue of marking controlled assessments, and it would be huge for primary colleagues. All of these things are on a strict time scale, and we're not privy to what that time scale is. But if progress on these stalls, or if the time scales are missed, unions can enter dispute over these issues. Now comes Section 5. The stuff mentioned here is the most contentious of the agreement.
Game over, man. It's game over.
From a certain angle, it sounds like it could be saying that we're giving up our right to strike. Now, this is important to Think 1265, as the right to take industrial action is central to following through the current arrangements over workload grievances outlined in Section 5.8 of the Workload Agreement. Now, while it's easy to say the language could have been simpler,
you keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Unfortunately, the language is the thing here. It's the words that are agreed by the negotiators, so they can't be simplified afterwards. But this is what I'm told it means. Point 1 talks about industrial action being a last resort and adhering to the code of practice for industrial action. Now, all unions already do this. It's part of how they work and it's part of how industrial action works. Point 2 reads, commit to a period free from industrial action and the threat of industrial action in the context of the agreed future pay negotiation timeframes and implementation of the agreed work programme.
I may be a simple country hyper chicken, but I know when we're finger licked.
That's the scary bit, but it is easy to break down. It's asking for the teacher side, that's us, to not move to industrial action or to move to the threat of action, which means running a ballot, while the pay negotiations are underway. Look, this is pretty much what happens anyway. But the Minister is asking for the timescales of the pay negotiations to shift backwards a little. This is because it takes time for the money allocated to Stormont by Westminster to get over here and to then be divided up by the executive budget. Because of this delay, the Minister doesn't know how much money he's actually got for pay, so he can't effectively negotiate with us. Now, and this comes hard to a bolshy-wee reactionary like me, but this seems reasonable.
Oh my God!
He's also asking for no national action over workload to take place while the work programme about workload is still underway. Now, this again seems painfully reasonable. It's like complaining about a flat tyre while the mechanic is replacing the flat tyre. Of course, if the pay negotiation timeframes, which are outlined in the next section, are missed, then action goes ahead as it always did. The same for failure to deliver the work on the workload agreements. Additionally, my source told me that Stormont is trying to streamline the budget process so the Minister has a better idea of the money available much earlier, so it's likely that this will be a one-year thing. Look, that's our understanding of the offer. You may say that this would have been great to have had on Friday night, but that's an issue to bring up elsewhere. It's not Think1265's problem. So what happens now? Well, if you haven't voted, please remember to vote. Don't care how you do vote, but do vote. If a majority of members in any union vote no, we understand that the offer will be lifted and action will commence. If we're in that position, then please can we make sure that each and every one of us who's part of a union follow the industrial actions we're instructed to take, regardless of how you voted. If the majority of members in each union vote yes, then the offer's accepted and ASOS won't happen.
How do you like them apples?
Whatever happens, Think1265 will continue to push and campaign and cajole and post inappropriate memes and fight as hard as we can for our existing workload agreement to be implemented in every school in Northern Ireland.
Yeah, baby!
And we can't do any of that without your continued wonderful support. So have a great rest of the weekend.